All right, Terry, looks like we're good to go.
Good morning. It's 9 o'clock. Planning Commission board member. Open session, call to order and establish that a quorum is present. We're good on that, Hillary?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It looks like we have 5 members present.
Okay, great. Second thing on our agenda today is the consent agenda. And the commission may request for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for presentation and public comment. Otherwise, a consent agenda will be considered in one vote.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Looks like a 5-0.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is election of chair and vice chair. So I'll open that up for nominations.
And again, we do this every year, guys. This is something we have to do in January. Currently, obviously, Travis Stribling is your chair. Terry Jackson is your vice chair. So it's up to the board to continue with the same or elect somebody new to these positions. So you would make a motion or a recommendation for these appointments.
There need to be 2 separate motions.
No, sir, I don't believe they do. I think if you want to make a motion for both at one time, as long as everybody agrees to that, we can vote on it at once.
I'd make a motion to nominate Travis as chair and Terry as vice chair.
Second.
Okay. So any other nominations? Okay, we have Travis Stribling as chair, Terry Jackson as vice chair. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, 5-0. With that being said, I will continue the meeting. So we're going to start on our regular agenda items. The subdivision plats. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to City Council. The first one is a replat of Lot 24, Block 23, Section 16E, Bentwood Country Club Estates. A request for approval of a replat of Lot 24, Block 3, Section 16E, Bentwood Country Club Estates, being 0.81 acres, located southeast of Beatty Road and Berwick Drive, and where am I? Sorry, I lost my place in reading. And a variance from Chapter 10.3A2 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a paving width of 20 feet without curb and gutter in lieu of the required 40-foot or 36-foot with a 4-foot sidewalk with curb and gutter for Beatty Road, an urban local street.
All right, Planning Commission, Hillary Bucher, Planning Manager. I'll be the first to present today. So what we are looking at here is a replat of Lot 24, Block 3, Section 16E, Bentwood Country Club Estates. So it is a replat of 0.812 acres. Its current address is 1942 Beatty Road. The zoning out there is RM1 with the neighborhood future land use. This is in SMD number 1, Tommy Hebert's district in the Country Club neighborhood. So what they're doing is they're taking one existing lot that was platted in 2015 and they're splitting it up into 2. You can see the lot will remain fairly large. They're 96 feet approximately width with 190-foot depth. So these are bigger than what would be required in RS1, but this is RM1 zoning. So RM1 is consistent with the neighborhood future land use, sorry about that, and continuation of the existing development. So there's single family homes all in this area. This will provide for safe and orderly development of the city, and we will have a safe network of streets for vehicular circulation. So the one thing we do need to talk about is the Chapter 10 variance. Beatty Road currently is just a circle at the end of this road. So this is a very limited group that will use this road. It's very rural in nature. This is getting towards the lake. So when we looked at this street variance, we determined that it was not detrimental to leave it at its current width. Again, this is not a through street. This is not a street that the whole city, probably most people haven't even been in this part of Beatty Road. So The current street meets the needs of the area, and adding 2 additional homes will not significantly increase that traffic. This street is currently on city property near a recreational area and maintains the same widths adjacent, so to the east and the west. It is currently the same width. The street will serve the area, and again, 2 homes will not create a strain on the street. Since the width is sufficient, this will not pose a safety risk. So this is looking at the street. You can see Bentwood development to your left on this first picture. The second picture is actually just the frontage of the lots. So it's a little hard to see what it will look like when it's done. It's pretty thick brush right along the road, but it easily can be 2 cars passing each other. And again, this is headed down towards the dam at Lake Nazareth. It's a very rural and recreational area. So we believe this road is appropriate in this area. So staff is recommending approval of a replat of Lot 24, Block 3, Section 16E, Bentwood Country Club Estates, and approval of a variance from Chapter 10-3A2 to maintain a 20-foot pavement width for Beatty Road, subject to 4 conditions. So they will need a copy of their tax certification. They will need to install water and sewer service lines to both the new lots. They will illustrate an 80-foot right-of-way for Beatty Road. That's actually, the city will be joining in on this plat. The property that's adjacent is city property. So the city will be dedicating the right-of-way for Beatty Road in front of these. And then they will submit plans for Beatty Road, get a financial guarantee, or obtain this variance as staff has recommended approval of. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions of Hillary. We'll open it to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak?
Good morning, commissioners. This is Erica Carter with Carter Fentress Engineering. I wanted to thank staff for their help on this one and ask you guys to please approve as presented.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and open it up for discussion.
I move to accept as presented.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second from the Joes. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Okay, like 6-0 now. Brittany has joined us.
Okay, great. Okay, our next plat is replat of lots 1 through 4 of Block 3, Avondale Addition. A request for approval of a replat of lots 1 through 4, Block 3, Avondale Addition, being 0.3134 acres, located at 1836 Magnolia Drive, and 2 variances from Chapter 10-3A2 of the Land Development and Division and Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a paving width of 30 foot with curb and gutter in lieu of the required 40 foot or 36 foot with a 4 foot sidewalk for Magnolia Drive, an urban local street, and to maintain 36 feet paving width with no curb and gutter for Lowry Avenue, an urban local street.
Good morning, Planning Commissioners. Sherry Bailey, Principal Planner. I have this one. As you can see, this is a replat of the 4 lots before you on the corner of Magnolia, and this is Lowry. It's actually the 1836 Magnolia Drive is the existing house. It is 0.3134 acres. The zoning is RS1. The future land use is neighborhood. It is in SMD number 4, Lucy Gonzalez's district, and it's the Pauland neighborhood. As you can see, there are 2 lots, lot 2A and 1A. 2A is slightly larger so that we could accommodate, or they could accommodate the existing house, and so that it could meet all of the setbacks. The second lot, 1A, presently does not have any structures on it. The variance that they are requesting is to maintain the existing feet of pavement and curb and gutter that is along Magnolia. And they are also requesting a variance to maintain the existing 36 feet of paving with no curb and gutter on Lowry Avenue. Because this is a residential replat, we sent out 10 notices. We received 0 in support and 0 in opposition. As you can see, this is from Magnolia Street. There is the curb and gutter. And then if you move over to Lowry Avenue, you can see that it is the larger 36 feet, but there is no curb and gutter. And the street has started to deteriorate around the edges. This is in conformity with the comprehensive plan, since the plan has this in the neighborhood designation, and this is consistent with that. The purpose statements in this case are the proposed plat will help provide orderly development and assist in future growth according to the city plans. It identifies boundaries and ensures easements and rights of way are provided. Moving on to the rationale for Chapter 10A variance request. Let me start off by saying staff is not supportive of the Lowry Avenue variance because it is an existing road and we agree with that, but it is only a 2-course that the city did the paving on a few years back. And we believe that it will continue to deteriorate over time. And it does not have curb and gutter, which would help that deterioration, even though the street only serves the 2 lots, the one on the corner to the west and then the one on the east. This street really is no longer needed because of the fact that it does only serve those 2 lots. And then the park is directly adjacent to that. And there are no plans at this time to expand the street into the park. Staff believes that an appropriate action would be to abandon the street and to make it an alley connection. The water main service line goes through the middle, so we would maintain the 20 feet for an alley, but it really doesn't make sense to continue this as a street. Staff believes that the applicant did not have time at the time that they made the request to consider that approach, but we would like to see that in the future. We believe that Magnolia's 30-foot is reasonable for that area of the town. Almost all of the older streets up there are only 30 feet wide. They all do have curb and gutter, and we would support the request for a variance for Magnolia. Again, Lowry is only a 2-course paving, and it does not have curb and gutter. We believe that this is not unique in that most of the existing older areas are about that same size. So this would be in keeping with what's existing. The standard street requirement in this area would not make sense in that everything has developed at a 30-foot width, and then to suddenly spread it out to the larger width does not make sense on Magnolia. So again, staff does agree with the Magnolia request, but we are not supporting the Lowry request at this time. And as you can see, the recommendation is an approval for the replat of lots 1 through 4, Block 3, Avondale Addition, and an approval of the variance from Chapter 10, 3A2 for Magnolia Street, but a denial of the variance for 10, 3A2 for Lowry Avenue. And this would all be subject to 5 conditions of approval. And the summary of those conditions is to provide a copy of the tax certificate, to install the water and wastewater service lines for each lot, to illustrate the right-of-way for Lowry Avenue. It is presently not really illustrated on the proposed plat, and to prepare and submit plans for the required improvements to Magnolia or to receive a variance. and then to prepare and submit plans for the required improvements to Lowry or a financial guarantee or receive a variance. With that, I will stop my presentation. And are there any questions?
Well, and I'd like to clarify just so that the board kind of understands where staff was coming from. Lowry currently goes nowhere, and the park is right north of it, so we're not sure it will ever. So your decision before you today is allow the variance and let them leave it as it is. Or if you denied the variance, they could seek an abandonment of the road and possibly turn it into an alley. So that's really what we're talking about here. Staff was, I guess we didn't believe it was the best option to grant the variance and let the road remain deteriorating over time. Our thought was the best option would be to abandon it, but that's the decision before you today. So if anyone has any additional questions, we'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Sherry? Seeing none, we'll open it for public comment.
Good morning, Erica Carter again with CFE. Hillary, I wanted to ask a couple of questions of you real quick because we didn't get a chance to talk about it. What will my client be responsible for as far as the abandonment? I mean, how much does he have to do that survey and pay for all of that?
If we did an abandonment, we would just ask that they absorb that part that is abandoned into their parcel. So it would be a plat process, but it would be absorbing that. And again, that's what this commission needs to decide today is what is the best option for everyone? What is, should it be an abandonment or should we allow the variance and let that?
Yeah, I'm just trying, my concern and my client's concern is, how long does the abandonment process take? Do you know that?
It's about 2.5 months. I mean, it would have to go to city council as well.
And so what are the fees associated with that?
The right-of-way abandonment.
I'm putting you on the spot. I'm just
No. I actually have it because I'm in my office. It's right in front of me. So the right-of-way abandonment itself is $450 to go to council, and then they would pay the fees. I'm sorry, $450 plus the $125, and then they would pay the fees for the actual land. It's based on the appraised value. They would acquire that. The good news is their lot would be larger and they'd have more room for the house. They could also use part of the existing paving as their entrance to maybe their garage or their carport. So there's some additional benefits, but again, that's what we brought it to Planning Commission to make this decision and decide what, again, granting the variance would allow them just to leave it as is today. So
yeah. So that would be kind of, I guess, from my client's standpoint, he's taken one lot and he's making it into two, and they're gonna redo the house that's there, kind of update it and stuff, and then build a house, and so any additional fees that are associated is gonna obviously in this area with 2 lots, it seems like it's not a lot, but it is in this case. This is not necessarily an infill area, I guess, but an infill project. So what I'm going to request from commission is that they approve the variances and allow us to move forward. But at the same time, Hillary, I think we would be willing to sit down and visit with you about the abandonment. So that's what I'm asking from city or planning commission, is to please approve the variances so that my client has the assurance that he's not, we don't know how much it's going to cost. And that's a problem for my client. So sorry, that wasn't very eloquently spoken.
Hillary, I have a question for you. In this abandonment, though, just to be clear, if Erica's client does the abandonment, they're only talking about half of the street, correct?
That's
would
correct. Yes,
be
ma'am. They would
theirs.
have the option, the first right to purchase half the street. If the adjacent neighbor didn't want theirs, we could work on that. Maybe the 20 feet that we leave for the alley connection could shift to the east and they could acquire more. So we would have to work together. And Erica's right. If you grant the variance today, that does not prohibit us from seeking abandonment in the
Correct.
future if they choose to do so.
Any further public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment and open it up to the commissioners for discussion. Looking for a motion or discussion.
I'll move to approve with the variances.
Okay, the motion to approve with the variances
Second that.
and a second. Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? The same sign. Okay,
6-0. Yes, ma'am.
6-0, that passes with the variances.
Yes, ma'am.
Our next item on the agenda is first replat in Lot 8, Block 2 of Probst subdivision. A request for approval of a replat of Lot 8, Block 2, Section 2, Probst subdivision being 0.164 acres located at 218 East 22nd Street.
Sherry Bailey, principal planner again. The piece of property that we're talking about on East 22nd is actually this half of Lot 8. You can see Lot 8 originally touched both 23rd and 22nd Street. The address there is 218 East 22nd Avenue. It is 0.164 acres. The zoning is RS1, single family. The future land use is neighborhood. It is also in Lucy Gonzalez's single member district number 4, and the neighborhood is the Reagan neighborhood. This is a close-up of the proposed lot or half lot. This was actually, even though it's never been divided off, it's always been used with a house on this property and this piece of property left for development that just did not occur until the applicant is making their request now. Because this is a residential replat, we sent out 26 notices. We received 0 in support and 0 in opposition. And this will give you an idea of the area where it's located. And you can see that East 22nd, when the street was built, it was built with a curb and gutter. It was built to the 30 feet of paving, but we'll talk about that in just a second. It conforms with the comprehensive plan in that the comprehensive plan is neighborhood designation. Under the intent of purpose statements, the proposed plat again helps to provide for the orderly development and to assist in the future growth of the city. It also identifies boundaries and ensures easements and rights of way are provided. When East 22nd Street was built, all of the required right-of-way for that street or their incremental half and the paving width was done on the north side of the street. The property, and I want to go back for just a minute if I could. And you can see that the property here all along the south side is abstract. It's never been platted, and so it's never really been developed. So we've got what we need from the north side as far as right-of-way and street paving. When that south side does develop, we will look to get the increased right-of-way and the larger paving width, perhaps. So staff is recommending approval of the plat of Lot 8, Block 2, proposed subdivision with 3 conditions of approval. The tax certification be provided prior to recordation to install the necessary water and wastewater service line, and prior to the plat recordation, submit revised plat or supporting documents illustrating the correct right-of-way for East 22nd Street. And with that, are there any questions? I'll stop sharing.
Okay. If there's no questions for Sherry, we'll open it for public comment. If there's anyone wishing to speak. Okay, we'll close public comment and open for discussion.
A motion to approve is written.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as written. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed with the same sign? Looks like that was approved 6-0. Okay. Our next one is a replat of Lot 14, Section 2, McAdams subdivision. A request for approval of a replat of Lot 14, Section 2, McAdams subdivision, being 0.561 acres located at 1815 Shirley Street, and a variance from Chapter 10(3)(a)(2) of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a paving width of 30 feet with curb and gutter in lieu of the required 40-foot or 36-foot with a 4-foot sidewalk with curb and gutter for Shirley Street and Urban Local Street.
All right. Good morning again, Planning Commission, Hillary Bucher. So we're going to go next to McAdams subdivision. So McAdams subdivision is a replat. It's located on Shirley Street, which is a very short little street connecting Jomar to Rainey. This is at 1815 Shirley Street, a little over half an acre, zoned RS1 with a neighborhood future land use. It is in SMD 2, Tom Thompson's district in the Angelo Heights neighborhood. If you just look around this area, you'll see a bunch of homes. It looks, the church is directly across, but there's a lot of infill in this area. So what they're looking to do is split this into 2 home lots. So the home lots will be around 69-ish feet width, and then we have 178 lot depth, really good sized lot for this area. So it is 2 new residential lots. They are seeking a variance for Shirley Street. Shirley Street is currently 30 feet in width in lieu of the required 40 or 36 foot with a sidewalk. So this is the property, just happened to be the day it snowed that the picture was taken, but it is a vacant piece of land in a residential area. We wanted to take a couple of pictures of Shirley to show you really how good of condition it's in. We've got curb and gutter, we've got paving, even with the cars parked on the side, it's a relatively good street that we've got there, which is a great asset. So we are recommending approval of the plat. It is designated neighborhood, and this plat does conform with the comp plan. We also will provide orderly, safe development and have a street that will ensure safe and convenient functional access to this area. So again, this will not be detrimental. Shirley Street is 30 feet wide, but you can see in those pictures, it just curves from Jomar into Rainey. So it's a very short segment. If we did require paving on this portion, we'd only be 140 feet of the approximately 350, be a very irregular jog. So staff does support the variance. Again, most of this area in this land is developed. It's a very short little street. The opposite side has been developed without improvements to this street. And again, it would be 140 feet of the 330. So it'd be a very irregular jog. We don't see any physical conditions that would prevent it, but there is an existing curb, which again, helps the appearance and keeps it from deteriorating. And as we stated, the rest of the conditions are met. This is the only thing they need to do We think it's really an easy variance to support from a staff perspective. So staff recommends approval of a replat of Lot 14, Section 2 of the McAdams subdivision, and approval of a variance to maintain the 30 feet of paving with curb and gutter for Shirley Street, subject to 5 conditions. Number 1, the tax certification. We need to correct the signature block on this plat, which is a fairly easy fix. They would have to improve Shirley Street or get the variance as presented. We would install the water and wastewater service lines to each lot. And then we have to do a little bit of a sewer main, or we have to reserve a private easement, which I think is the applicant's intention. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Hillary? Seeing none, we'll open it for public comment.
Erica,
Erica,
you're
you're on mute.
No, I'm not. Hello again. I just thank the staff for their help on this one and ask that you please approve as presented.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and open up for discussion.
I'll motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed with the same sign? Okay, it's approved 6-0. Our next case is the first replat of Tract C, Paulan Park Addition, Section 2. A request for approval of a first replat of Tract 2, Paulan Park Addition, Section 2, being 5.002 acres located at the northeast corner of Gordon Boulevard and East Houston Hard Express frontage road, and a variance from Chapter 10.3A2 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a paving width of 0 feet, no paving or curb and gutter, in lieu of the required 50-foot with curb and gutter for Smith Boulevard and Urban Collector Street.
Thank you, Vice Chair Jackson and Planning Commission. Jeff Fisher, Principal Planner. Our next case today is a first replat of Tract C, Paulan Park Addition, Section 2. So some of you may be familiar with this. A Dollar General went in last year this was just over 5 acres. And so now they want to sell the south lot. So it's basically one large lot, 5.002 acres, and they're going to replat into 2. The zoning is general commercial CG, future land use commercial, SMD number 4, Lucy Gonzalez in the Paulan neighborhood. So this gives you an outline. So Tract C1 Dollar General is going to remain there. And then this next Tract C2 will be created off of the larger lots, and that'll be used for future commercial development. As part of the request, the applicant is requesting a variance from the subdivision ordinance to allow Smith to be 0 feet, basically not to have to pave Smith Boulevard. And so we'll get into the variance criteria in a minute. Staff is recommending the extension of the sidewalk down Gordon Boulevard. Dollar General, through their site plan, had already put in a sidewalk here and here. So that's a quick synopsis. Zoning, again, is general commercial CG. And pay attention to this map. We're going to go back over in a few minutes. All of the area down here is currently vacant land. It's commercial. And then here as well, there's potential for development. This is low-rise multifamily, so that could allow single family, 2-family, or multifamily development in the future. This is looking east. So there's the Dollar General. And this would be the future extension of Smith Boulevard. This is looking west on Smith. So Smith Boulevard goes all the way down past Paulan Church. It's got 50 feet already. It's designated as a collector road, and that portion that we're talking about is going to be a future collector. So it's already 50 feet and curb and gutter. So they want to have 0 feet, basically not extended past Gordon Boulevard. This is looking south on Gordon Boulevard, and this is north on Gordon Boulevard. So in terms of the comprehensive plan and the intent of purpose statements, staff believes that it does conform just on the plat itself. The plat supports the commercial policies in that area. The zoning is CG, So that would allow future retail onto a major street network. If Smith is constructed, it would provide orderly development and assist in future growth with the city. So staff is recommending denial of the variance for Smith Boulevard. And I'll just be brief, but I wanted to show you this map that I created just to give a little bit more explanation why this street is so important. So there are really no major collector roads that are built at 50 feet in this area that would get to Howard College and the corrections facility over here. Why does that matter? Because that's why I was showing you the zoning map a minute ago. This is all future potential residential development. One day they're going to develop lots here. And then on this side, this is going to be future commercial. So missing that opportunity now means if anyone develops in here and here, they're going to have to cover that, or the city is going to have to fund the incremental half of this street. So just to clarify, this variance, they would be required to do their incremental half minimum, which is 26 feet. They're not going to have to pave all 50, but they've got to do at least 26 feet. So this acts as a major collector. Now, Rick's up here is a collector, but it was only paved as 40 feet. And why this was left over is because a lot of these subdivisions were done before the current subdivision ordinance. So as long as they had frontage onto one road, they're often given exceptions or they didn't have to do it. And then when these were done in 2000, they left remainders. So we've closed some of those loopholes now with the current subdivision ordinance. We wouldn't allow those remainders today without at least a plan for future growth. So we're kind of left with a situation. If we give them the variance, we're going to have this huge gap in the street. So that's pretty much a summary of what I've stated. We believe it would be detrimental and set a negative precedent if we leave that hole in Smith Boulevard. It's not a unique situation. Those other plats, like I say, were either platted before the current ordinance and therefore didn't have to do it, or they were left over with remainders, and we've now closed that part of the ordinance. So this is just a unique, not a unique situation, and we believe that it would be prudent to get the 26 feet in this particular case. Staff recommends approval of the first replat of Track C, Paul Park Addition Section 2, but denial of the variance from Chapter 10382 of the subdivision ordinance to maintain a paving width of 0 feet, no paving and curb and gutter, instead of the required 50 feet, subject to 6 conditions of approval. So provide a copy of the tax certificate, prepare and submit plans for the required improvements to Smith Boulevard, financial guarantee or variance, submit a drainage study, submit plans and install a water main and service connections, submit plans and install a sewer main and service connections, install a water and wastewater service lines. And then this was a fire comment. So because it's a dead end turnaround, it's only servicing no more than 2 lots. So the subdivision ordinance doesn't require, but the fire code does prior to permitting. So this will be a note just to provide a width of a turnaround, work with the fire marshal's office. And then the second comment we've discussed is the sidewalk. So this concludes staff's presentation. I will stop sharing my screen in a minute. And when probably Mr. Gully's here with SKG and city engineering, some of these conditions will probably go back through and look at some of the deferrals that were discussed. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now, and any questions or comments.
Any questions for Jeff? Okay, seeing no questions, we'll open it for public comment.
Good morning, Russell with SKG Engineering. Thanks, Jeff, for your presentation. And I talked to Mr. Gatlin with engineering this morning. We're on the same page about the water and sewer utilities and potential main extensions. So really, we're not much there to discuss. We just wanted to leave it flexible enough such that we could work with engineering on whatever the solution is for sewer. There are several opportunities there. So engineering is gracious enough to work with us on the most effective solution for sewer. And then really the main topic we'd like to speak of too is the widening, or really the paving of our incremental part of the street. As you can tell, looking at the site and even the pictures that Jeff presented, the dollar store there does not front the street that they're asking us to improve we're creating this lot, doing the subdivision to create a lot that's really more at the corner of, has a frontage road. And so neither one of these two tracks has access, has entrances to, really relies upon that side street in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So, we're kind of dealing with a platted situation. We'd be happy to request abandonment and vacate the street, but we know maybe in the best public interest, it's best to have that road there, but it's really of no benefit at all to this land. And it's really a burden, if you will, to have it next to us, because they're going to have to spend the money potentially to improve the street. So, so we just asked for the variance. That condition has been like that for 40 plus years. If it ever develops, maybe there'll be a reason and someone can justify and fund that for that. So we just ask for your approval of the variance. Be happy to answer any questions.
And Ms. Jackson, Ms. Jackson, I'd like to address some of that.
Okay.
Just so the board understands, these are two commercial pieces of property. The reason Dollar General was able to develop without the street previously is they were over 5 acres. So that is an exception in our subdivision ordinance. If you are over 5 acres and you have frontage onto a street, you do not have to plat. We did tell them at that time, when they came in to replat, these would be requirements. And they, at that time, acknowledged that. So we are here with this subdivision that will allow 2 commercial properties to develop. The subdivision ordinance creates the obligation for the street. This is not a street the city would recommend abandoning. This is a major connection between Pauline Church and the area around it, the homes, again, like Jeff said, to Howard College. So this is the major connection. I think Rick's currently serves as it, but it wasn't intended to be Rick's. It was intended to be a commercial road in between the commercial and the residential. So if you'll think of Green Meadow on the south side of the loop, that road really allows for movement along those commercial properties and separates the commercial from the residential. So this is a street that needs to be improved, and it will be up to the job of each of these developers to take their portion as they continue to develop along it. So I think recommending or denying this variance is the best option for everyone in the city. I understand that it's a financial burden, but this is an area that will develop, especially as we see these road improvements start to move.
Yeah, and I was going to say Hillary's correct, and it's been designated as a future collector road in our thoroughfare plan since 2003. And again, I think the past history or lack of maybe regulations in the past would not be a candidate for a variance for something new today, so that the new situation is subject to the current ordinance. And again, they would only have to pave 26 feet, their incremental half.
Okay, thank you. Any further public comment? Okay, I'm going to close public comment and open it for discussion with commissioners.
So those residential lots, I believe David Jensen owns them, if I'm not mistaken, or he did at one point in time. That little area has been basically landlocked for a while until the development of Dollar General was actually placed there. So in my opinion, Dollar General, although yes, they're going to have some financial burden as far as putting in the street and whatnot, but they're also going to be gaining all of those potential customers that will be future once those residential lots are developed. So in my opinion, I'm going to go ahead and say I'll approve as staff presented.
So you're saying to deny,
Correct.
to approve the first and deny the paving width.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed with the same sign? I think that was approved 6-0.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all.
Number 2 is a related comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning. City Council has final authority for approval of comprehensive plan amendments and rezonings. Do these need to be read together? I know they're
Ye-
two different.
Yes, Ms. Jackson, if you could do that, please.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So West Loop 306, 1700 block. The first one is CP 20-08, West Loop 306, 1700 block. A request for approval of an amendment to the City of San Angelo Comprehensive Plan, changing certain lands from the neighborhood future land use to the transitional land use, being 1.658 acres located south of Loop 306, west of Old Stone Drive and east of North Bentwood Drive. And the second one is Z 2021, West Loop 306, 1700 block. A request for approval of a rezoning from the single-family residential RS1 zoning district to the general commercial CG zoning district, being 9.182 acres out of Casper Berberich Survey 177, abstract number 52, lots 1, 2, and tract A, Lucky Lou Edition, located south of Loop 306, west of Old Stone Drive, and east of North Bentwood Drive.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. I think the Planning Commission is very familiar with this piece of property. We recently told you that this area right here, this triangle piece, was being annexed into the city, and last month you did have the plat for this piece of property. They are now moving forward with a comp plan to transitional for the piece that's being annexed into the city. This piece of property, as I'll show you in a minute, is already transitional. And then they're requesting to rezone the entire area to general commercial. As you indicated, it's just off of the Loop 306 frontage road. Their total area is 9.182 acres. It's in District 1, Mr. Hubert's district, and it's the Country Club neighborhood. This is the piece of property that we're currently wanting to change the comprehensive plan on from neighborhood to transitional. And as you can see, this whole piece here that's already in the city limits is zoned RS1, and we're wanting to rezone the entire piece, or they are wanting to rezone it to general commercial. Bringing it at this point in time will sync up the annexation as it goes to city council for action with the rezoning, so that by the second hearing for both of those items, they will be annexed into the city and zoned at the same time. There were 4 notices that were sent out. We have not received any in favor or any in opposition. The newly annexed area is, as was indicated, is intended to square off this area for commercial development. And because this is transitional, that's actually a really good comprehensive plan designation, because it buffers the area between the Loop 306 and then what we all anticipate is going to be residential when they annex it to the south. And that transitional is exactly what it indicates. It's a transition from a more intense use to a less intense use, the residential use. So the rationale behind the zoning on this is that it is compatible with, if you approve the comprehensive plan amendment, it's compatible with the comprehensive plan indication for a commercial area adjacent to 306 and then acting as a buffer to the residential. It is also consistent with the zoning ordinance. If you look at all around the city, you'll see a number of areas where a very intense use or a major traffic carrier is located, and then general commercial is immediately adjacent to it. That acts again as a buffer to the residential. It's compatible with the surrounding area. Old Stone, that is immediately to the east, is also zoned general commercial along the interstate. And then the property to the west is low-rise multifamily, which is also considered a fairly high intensive use. This area is beginning to develop, and with the sewer expansion capability project, we see that the area is going to take off, and we expect that there will be additional annexations and rezoning requests in the near future. We believe the effect on the natural environment is going to be minimal because it was always intended to be a commercial use along that Loop 306. And so most of the effect to the natural environment has already occurred. As far as community need, the San Angelo is still in need of both commercial development backed by residential, which provides a nice balance all around the city. The development patterns, the current development pattern is dictated by Loop 306. You're very familiar with that. It carries most of the traffic from that south area of residential into the community, into other areas out there. So this general commercial is a really good mix along with the residential that we anticipate. Staff is recommending approval of the request for the comprehensive plan for the 1.658 acres to transitional. And we're also recommending a rezoning for the entire area, the 9.182 to general commercial. That just makes sense. It's immediately adjacent to the frontage road for 306, and it's consistent with what has occurred in the area. And with that, I'll start sharing my screen. And are there any questions?
Okay, no questions for Ms. Bailey. We'll open it up for public comment. Seeing no public comment, we will open it for discussion. And I actually do have a question for either Sherry or Hillary. On this, we did this as one, we read it all together. Do we need two separate motions on these since they are totally different items?
No, ma'am, as long as the motion covers both items, we should be able to take one vote.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll motion to approve as presented.
We
Second.
have a motion to approve and Joseph is second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed with like sign? I believe that passes 6-0.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is rezonings. The City Council has final authority for approval of rezonings. The first one is PD 21-01630 South Oaks. This item will be rescheduled to February 2021 meeting, and the applicant is in agreement on this. So we'll move to our next one, which is Z. Oh, I have a question for you, Hillary.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is still in year 20, correct? The
Yes,
number?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. The numbers are still 20. They will become 21 next
Okay.
meeting. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is Z 20-22 to North Cohenheim. A request for approval of a rezoning from the neighborhood commercial General Commercial CG, General Commercial Heavy Commercial CGCH, and low-rise multi-family residential RM1 zoning districts to the Central Business District CBD, being 0.54 acres located at 2 North Cohenheim Street and 2.72 acres west of Martin Luther King Drive, north of West Harris Avenue, and south of West College Avenue.
All right. Good afternoon, planning commissioners. I am loading my screen real quick and we will get going on this case. I'm sorry, bear with me 1 second. I think I went back all the way to the beginning, so. I hit the wrong button. All right. So we are looking at Z 2022. This is 2 North Cohenheim Street and the surrounding properties. We are rezoning from 4 different districts. So we have CGCH, which is general commercial, heavy commercial, CN, neighborhood commercial, RM1, low-rise multifamily, and CG, which is general commercial to CBD. When we pull up the zoning map here in a minute, you'll see that the CBD is directly adjacent to this. So the applicant for this request is actually Jack's Convenience Store. They own the adjacent property, which is their lube center. There is a law office in this, and then the rest of it is the Tom Green County Sheriff's Office and Yard. Again, Jack's was the applicant, so both of their properties, we've spoken with Tom Green County. They have agreed to be part of this. We have not directly spoken to the law office, but we did send them a certified letter, and they've got their letter from the notification. So we've sent out 2 letters and have heard no opposition. So again, 2 North Cohenheim and most of the adjoining block, we're looking at a little over 3 acres. SMD number 3, Harry Thomas's district in the downtown neighborhood. So this is the current zoning map. You can see the multitude of colors through here. The central business district is to the east and south of this. So this will just be a continuation of that. And the future land use calls for this area to be in the downtown area. So we have some pictures of the subject property. You probably drive by it quite often, but this is the Jack's Convenience Store. You can also see the lube and car wash there. This is the one law office. And then the remainder of the properties, again, are the Tom Green County Sheriff's Office. So their actual office and then a storage yard directly behind them. So we mailed out 16 notifications. We've heard 0 in favor and 0 in opposition. We believe this is compatible. Again, the future land use calls for this area to be downtown. We want to reinforce the downtown as a commercial service center, which most of these uses would fall in. This will allow for a greater variety of uses, and it will allow the commercial uses to expand at their current locations. Again, we have a higher allowance of freestanding signs. This originally was initiated by the applicant because they are looking to install a 40-foot sign, and the current CN zoning did not allow it. So this will allow up to 40-foot signage. And again, it's compatible with all the surrounding properties. The area is mostly comprised of mixed uses, but this specifically is commercial. This would allow some residential and allow for mixed use. We have talked about rezoning most of these properties on and off for a while, so this will be compatible with the conditions as they've changed over time. And the CBD standards really allow the flexibility for these properties in freestanding signs, in setbacks, in parking issues. We see little to no adverse impacts on the development. These sites are mostly developed as they stand today. And again, allowing CBD to expand will expand the development opportunities in this area. Again, this is a mostly mixed commercial. There are some residentials around this area, but the subject properties are strictly commercial. So staff is recommending of the approval from the rezoning from the neighborhood center, general commercial, heavy commercial, and low-rise multifamily to the central business district, being 0.5 acres located at 2 North Cohenheim and 2.72 acres west of Martin Luther King, north of West Harris, and south of West College Avenue. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, no questions for Ms. Hillary. We will open it up for public comment. Seeing no public comment, we will open it up to the commission for discussion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, any opposed? Brittany, you're voting for, is that correct?
You're muted, Brittany.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm voting to approve. I apologize. I lost my.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you. I just wanted to confirm. Okay, that would be 6-0 in approval. We'll move on to conditional uses. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to City Council. CU 20-19 3801 Glen Meadow Drive, a request for approval of a conditional use for a short-term rental within an existing residential structure in the low-rise multifamily RM1 zoning district for a property located at 3801 Green Meadow Drive.
Thank you, Vice Chair. This is a request for a short-term rental, and as you're well aware, short-term rental takes a conditional use action. In this particular case, it is a fourplex. Each of the portion of the fourplex is individually owned. So it's not a multifamily in the traditional sense, but it is individually owned. It is 0.066 acres. It is in District 6, Billy DeWitt's district, and it's the Bonham neighborhood. The future land use is neighborhood. It is consistent with that, and the zoning is RM1. This is a picture of the front quarter, the front house. This is the one that is requesting the conditional use. It is set back from the road. The parking that meets the requirements for that single family structure is the 2 parking spaces, and they are made on the lot. I took the picture from the side to give you a sense of where that unit is located. There is, this is an alley here, and it goes to an alley, and that second structure in the back actually gets their frontage off of that alley. And then to the right is the interstate, is the Loop 306, but also it's fairly vacant at this point in time, and development is not anticipated to occur there in the near future. There were 22 notices that were mailed out very late on Friday afternoon. We did receive 2 letters of opposition. Both of them, their concerns were the same. That one was the entire area out there, and this whole area is RM1, and there are a lot of the individual units that were purchased and then are now being rented out. So it is a very intense residential use. And there are a lot of cars out there. In many cases, in talking to the neighbors and the person who sent one of their letters in, about half of the units out there are rental units, and they're usually the 3-bedroom units, and they're usually rented out to 3 different people from the base, for instance. So there are a lot of cars in the area. That's what they are objecting to, is the cars that are in the area. It's very dense. However, as a short-term rental, and as I was explaining to the person that called in, it's not a continuous rental. Short-term means 30 days or less. And in most cases, it's either one person or a family coming in for that short term. The second item was that the number of rentals that have occurred out there, they believe that is detrimental to the value of the individually owned properties. The rationale for supporting the conditional use in this case is because the impacts are minimal on that corner piece of property. The parking is provided, the fencing is provided, all of the requirements under the short-term rental ordinance are there. It is consistent with the RM zoning. The short-term rental does fit in under that, a conditional use under that zoning. And it is compatible with the surrounding area because all of the development in that area is fourplexes, and it's more intensely developed as a residential area. We do not anticipate any effects on the natural environment. Community need. Short-term rentals are very similar to housing, but on a very, very short-term basis. We get a lot of demand within the city for that, for people coming in to the base that are going to be here for 2 weeks or so, looking for someplace that they can rent. They don't want to go into an apartment situation, and most places can't. So there really is a large call for that. And in visiting with some of the people in the area, we know that some of the businesses out in that area have people coming in. This request, there are no changes to the existing development pattern that would occur because it's already an established use and it's not impacting that use from staff standpoint. So staff is recommending approval of the conditional use for the short-term rental at 3801 Green Meadow Drive with 2 conditions of approval: that there's no exterior evidence of the short-term rental status, and that the property owner shall maintain the short-term rental operation in the manner that's consistent with section 406 of the zoning ordinance, and they adhere to all of the requirements. And in visiting with the applicant, they do have a couple of other short-term rentals, and they're very aware of the fact that if they don't maintain it and if they don't follow all of the requirements, staff will know about it very quickly. So with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Ms. Bailey? We're a pretty quiet group today, so no questions. We're going to open it for public comment. Okay. There is someone that their mic is unmuted.
That's
Lori
me.
Ann?
Yes.
Okay. Do you wish to speak for public comment?
No, I don't have anything really to say at this time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment and open it up for discussion with the commission.
This formerly was like a rental before the applicant purchased the property. The applicant does have multiple other properties that they do short-term rental on. So, I will go ahead and motion to approve as presented by the staff with the 2 conditions.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and a couple of seconds. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, any opposed, like sign? I think that's approved 6-0. Next item is sign variance. Planning Commission has final authority for approval of sign variances. Appeals may be directed to City Council. We're looking at SV 20-03, 2239 North Bryant Boulevard. A request for approval of a sign variance for a freestanding sign to have a clearance from the ground of 98 inches, 8 foot 2 inches in lieu of the required 108 inches, 9 foot in the general commercial, heavy commercial CGCH zoning district located at 2239 North Bryant Boulevard.
Okay, here we go, Planning Commission. I've got the last 2. So this is a sign variance. Again, Terry just mentioned they are requesting a variance. They are going to be at 8 feet 2 inches instead of the required 9 feet. They are located at 2239 North Bryant in SMD number 4, Lucy Gonzalez's neighborhood district in the Blackshear neighborhood. So the current zoning is general commercial, heavy commercial, but the future land use speaks to a neighborhood center kind of feel. So we want to keep it relatively low scale if we can. This is the proposed sign. So you can see the existing sign, the Concho Educator sign, the 2 poles exist today. They have a digital sign that they have moved from a different location and would like to place underneath the existing sign, which again gives them that clearance that doesn't meet the 9 foot standard. The drawing to the right really illustrates to you where the sign is located. So this sign is interior to their lot. A lot of the 9 feet, the reason we have it is to allow visibility of pedestrians and vehicles. Since this sign is so close to the building, I don't think visibility is as much an issue as it would have been had this sign been located along the right of way. So they have actually installed it. We have talked to them about they need, we'll go to Planning Commission. You guys can make a decision, and then they might have to remove it or move it up depending on your final decision. But you can see there, even a car parked beside it. The truck has a little bit of visibility issues, but the SUV can see underneath it. So that's really what we're speaking to. If your variance is granted, we would require them to push it up all the way so it touches the other sign. So that'll give us the maximum amount of clearance under the sign. So again, a hardship is required for a variance. The existing sign structure is located in a landscape area in front of the building. Most of the remaining side is paved. So this physical condition might be considered a hardship. So that's really for the board to decide. So again, if they had to move it somewhere, that might be a pretty big deal trying to find a location if the parking lot exists today. So staff is recommending approval of this variance. The proposed sign will not impede traffic patterns or safety. The existing sign has been located in front of the building for years, and the digital sign will just be an addition to this existing sign. The bottom putting the new sign at the bottom will limit the clearance, but we believe 8 foot 2 inches will serve since it is in location very, very close to the building as it sits today. So again, the sign ordinance set the 9 feet so that there would be no major impacts to traffic, given its interior location of the property, and it's the fact that it's set back 63 feet from the street curb. Staff doesn't foresee any traffic or safety concerns at this point. With the approved variance, the sign will meet all other provisions of the sign ordinance. And since this is mostly for vehicle visibility, we think the sign's location should not cause these issues. Again, the proposed sign will not depart from the ordinance other than the ground clearance requirement. So if we leave it in the same spot, this will just be an extension of the existing sign. Again, staff is recommending approval of the sign variance that would allow a freestanding sign to have a clearance of 98 inches, 8 feet 2 inches in lieu of the required 108 inches, which is 9 feet in the general commercial, heavy commercial zoning district. Again, if this sign had been anywhere near the street or we foresaw other issues, I think we would have changed our recommendation. But given the fact that it is right next to the building, it's in the existing parking lot, we don't see any issues with this. So we are recommending approval. And I will stop sharing my screen if anyone has any questions.
Hillary, to achieve the 98 inches, you're saying that those two signs have to be touching, that has to be raised up?
Yes, ma'am. We wouldn't support it. We told the applicant we were not willing to support it if they didn't get the maximum they could. So they are willing to bump it up.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Hillary? Okay, seeing none, we'll open it for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this case? Seeing no one, we'll open it for discussion with the commissioner.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed with a like sign? I believe that's 6-0, is that right? In
Yes,
approval?
ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Our next case is a street name change. City Council has final authority for approval of street name changes. Tractor Trail and Rob Roy Drive street naming. A request to name private streets to Tractor Trail and Roy Rob Drive over the complete length from North US Highway 67 to 77, 0.25 miles southeast, and then 0.15 miles northeast, located in Northeast San Angelo, near the Tom Green County Detention Center.
All right, again, I've got the last one. We'll finish this up. So this is a street naming, I would call it more than a street renaming. These are not publicly dedicated streets. These currently sit on City of San Angelo property and Tom Green County property. So there's 2 private properties here. Tom Green County has created a detention facility access road to allow emergency services to get there quicker. So they would come off 67, either north or southbound, be able to access off of Tractor Trail and then turn up and go to the new jail. So on the picture here, you can kind of see the new jail. It was starting back then, which is now complete up in the top right-hand corner. So again, we're calling this a street naming. These are private streets is what we're calling them. It is 0.25 miles and 0.15 miles on the city property. And then we've got a portion on the Tom Green County property. They are going to ratify this at their commissioners court meeting as well, so that we have the whole thing changed. Detention facility access road was a lot to say. So they agreed on Tractor Trail would be kind of the east-west road, as the easiest way to put it. It'll be an extension of the existing Tractor Trail. The north-south road, I know it's a little off skew, but the north-south road will be Roy Robb Drive, and that'll reflect the name of the detention facility as it sits today. Again, these roads begin at North US Highway 67 and Tractor Trail, so this will be an extension of that. The zoning is currently ML and PD 1602. The future land use of this area is campus institutional. This is in SMD number 4, Lucy Gonzalez's district in the Pauline neighborhood. So again, these are private streets on property wholly owned by COSA and Tom Green County. We are assigning these names to help with emergency service calls. That way they'll be able to get to there quicker. Tom Green County uses the streets to access the detention facility, and they have in another agreement have agreed to maintain the roads until the point at which they become city standards and have right-of-way dedicated. So it's basically just naming them. So they have named their portion Detention Facility Access Road. So this action will rename the portions on the COSA property and officially name the pieces that have not been named. So again, changing the name will help clarify the use for emergency personnel, residents, and visitors. There's no existing streets in the city with the same name, and changing the name will clarify the use of the road. So staff is recommending approval of the proposed street naming designations of Tractor Trail and Roy Robb Drive. And I will stop sharing my screen if anyone has any questions.
Okay, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll open it for public comment. No public comment, we'll open it to the commissioners for discussion.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed with same sign? I think that was 6-0, Hillary, is that right? Okay. Director's report.
Yeah, just a couple of things. One, we're still meeting virtually, and we don't really see that changing in the near future. So we anticipate the meetings to continue to be virtual. But we will definitely let you know if and when that changes. Hopefully at some point this year that will happen. But at this point, we just don't know. The second thing is, as you may have noticed, some of our meetings have had quite a few cases. We've also got some ordinance amendments coming up. And so we've talked about the possibility of having a second meeting if we have a month with a whole bunch of cases. And I guess I just wanted to throw that out to the commission to see if, would you rather have one long meeting that might last, till noon or sometimes later, or if we do have a month where there are a whole bunch of cases, would you rather us split some of those and have a meeting, say 2 weeks after the regular meeting, have a special meeting? We can do it either way. I know I've worked in other cities that did that, and those commissions seem to like not having an overloaded meeting. At the same time, it's a second meeting. So we just kind of wanted to throw that out and get y'all's thoughts.
Well, if the second meeting is going to speed it up for the citizen, I'm all for it. I'm not worried about me. We work for the citizen. So if it makes their process any easier and faster, then absolutely.
Well, and hopefully it will not be a reoccurring thing. We're hoping this is a one-time thing. We just Today went really fast, but we have been having meetings that are pretty heavily loaded on our planning commission. So,
Yeah. And I'm not objectable either to longer meetings if we need to, and just get it, it's on the agenda and get them all done instead of putting, as Joe said, we're here for the citizens.
Sure.
If we're stalling some of the cases by having to have a second meeting, I think it would be better to go ahead and have a longer meeting and just, set aside time for that so we're all available.
Sure. Well, and I should add that we would not use that in a way that would delay anyone. So if people were wanting to move forward, an applicant, we wouldn't delay them a couple of weeks just to push them off to the other meeting. It would typically be, minor things like this street name change we just talked about, or some ordinance amendments that we're looking at that don't have a, critical time frame. But again, like Hillary said, this wouldn't be an every month thing. It might just happen once or twice. But I guess we'll just follow up and let you guys know if it comes to a month where it looks like we're going to have a huge number of cases. We might just check in with each of you to see for that particular month what your preference is. I just wanted to give you a heads up about it.
Thank you.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, future meetings and agenda and announcements. So the next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is tentatively scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. on Monday, February 15th at 2021, probably virtually at this point. And looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move that we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. Everybody, thank you very much. See you next month.
10:21. Thank you all.